The alarm bells rang through the Galactic Academy at exactly 9 in the morning. Students in the hallways stopped walking and looked around with worry. The sound meant only one thing. Something very dangerous was coming to the school. Professor. Kale walked into his classroom with heavy steps. His blue skin looked pale, and his forearms shook a little as he set down his teaching materials. The students in his xenobiology class had never seen their teacher look so scared. "Students," Professor Kale said in a quiet voice, "today we will study a live specimen. This is not like our usual lessons with dead samples or computer models. What we will see today is alive, and it is very dangerous." The classroom had 23 students from different planets. Yuna sat in the front row. Her crystal body was clear like glass, but now it turned a dark red color. This meant she was afraid. Next to her, Sunwoo's gas-like body changed from blue to gray. Even Hyerin, whose insect-like face usually showed no feelings, clicked her mandibles in a worried way. "The creature we will study today," Professor Kale continued, "is a juvenile Vex Hunter. It comes from the Vex homeworld in the Outer Rim. This species is known across the galaxy as one of the most deadly predators ever discovered." Several students made scared noises. Two of the crystal beings stood up to leave, but Professor Kale raised one of his 4 hands to stop them. "Please, sit down. The creature is in a maximum security container. You are safe as long as you follow all safety rules." In the back row, Dohyun looked up from his notebook. He was the only human in the class. His black hair fell over his eyes as he leaned forward with interest. While other students moved their chairs away from the front of the room, Dohyun moved. "Closer!" "Professor!" called out Hyerin, her voice making a buzzing sound. "How dangerous is this creature exactly?" Professor Kale's expression became even more serious. "A Vex Hunter can kill in 17 different ways. Its claws can cut through most metals. Its bite contains neurotoxins that can paralyze a full-grown Goliathan in seconds. Its body produces acid that can dissolve organic matter on contact." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. More students wanted to leave, but the professor continued his explanation. "The specimen we have today is young, only about 1 year old, but even juvenile Vex Hunters have killed trained handlers. During transport here, it injured 3 guards and nearly escaped twice." Just then, the classroom door opened with a loud hiss. 6 security guards walked in wearing full battle armor. Behind them came a floating container the size of a small car. The container was made of clear quantum-locked glass, surrounded by energy shields that made the air around it glow blue. Inside the container was the Vex Hunter. The creature stood about 1 meter tall. Its body was dark purple with green spots. It had 6 legs, each ending in claws that looked like curved knives. Its head was triangular with 4 yellow eyes that moved independently of each other. Long, sharp mandibles clicked together as it breathed. Acid dripped from small holes along its sides, making soft hissing sounds as it hit the container floor. The classroom became completely silent. Even the air recycling system seemed to stop working. The Vex Hunter moved its head slowly, looking at each student. When its eyes found a student, that student would freeze with fear. Yuna's crystal body turned almost black. Sunwoo's gaseous form pulled itself into the smallest possible shape. Several students held their breath. Then the creature's 4 eyes focused on Dohyun. The human looked back at the Vex Hunter with calm curiosity. He tilted his head to one side, studying the creature's movements. The Vex Hunter stared at him for a long moment, its mandibles clicking faster. Then something unexpected happened. Dohyun smiled. Not a scared smile or a nervous smile, but a genuine smile of interest and amusement. He raised his hand and gave the Vex Hunter a small wave. The creature stopped clicking its mandibles. All four of its eyes focused on the human. It moved closer, to the glass, pressing its face against the barrier. The acid from its body made marks on the container walls. "Fascinating," Dohyun said out loud, loud enough for everyone to hear. Professor Kale stared at the human student. "Mr. Dohyun, do you understand what you are looking at?" "Yes, Professor. It's a Vex Hunter. You said it's very dangerous." Dohyun stood up and walked closer to the container. "But it's also really interesting. Look how it moves its eyes independently. And the way its mandibles work, that's similar to some insects back home." The security guards moved their hands to their weapons. The other students pushed their chairs even further back. But Dohyun kept walking toward the container until he was only 2 meters away from it. The Vex Hunter watched him approach. Its body language changed from aggressive to confused. It tilted its head, copying Dohyun's earlier movement. "Back home?" Professor Kale asked. "What do you mean?" "On Earth," Dohyun explained, still looking at the creature. "We have lots of animals that look scary, but are actually pretty cool once you understand them. This little guy reminds me of my sister Mina's pet." The classroom erupted in confused voices. Students looked at each other with disbelief. How could any creature on the human homeworld be similar to a Vex Hunter? "Your sister keeps a creature like this as a pet?" Yuna asked, her crystal body now flashing between red and clear. "Well, not exactly like this," Dohyun said with a laugh, "but something that other people think is scary. She has a big spider. Most humans are afraid of spiders, but Mina loves hers. She says people just don't understand how amazing spiders really are." The Vex Hunter pressed harder against the glass. It seemed to be trying to get closer to Dohyun. The human noticed this and moved even closer to the container. "Mr. Dohyun," Professor Kale called out, "please maintain a safe distance." "I am at a safe distance, Professor. The container is designed to hold this creature, right? So I'm perfectly safe." Dohyun looked back at his teacher with confusion. "Why is everyone so worried?" One of the security guards, a large Goliathan named Thorg, spoke up. "Human, this creature has killed members of my species. Goliathans are 3 times your size and much stronger. If it can kill us, it can definitely kill you." Dohyun nodded thoughtfully. "I understand that it's dangerous, but so are lots of animals back home. Bears, sharks, venomous snakes. They're all dangerous, but they're also part of our world. We've learned to live with them. Bears, sharks." Sunwoo's gaseous form turned bright yellow with surprise. "Your planet has multiple apex predators?" "Oh, tons of them," Dohyun said casually. "But that's normal for us. Earth has lots of different environments, so we have lots of different dangerous animals. You just have to understand them and respect them." The Vex Hunter made a sound none of them had heard before, a low humming noise instead of aggressive clicking. It was still watching Dohyun, but its posture had changed. It no longer looked like it was preparing to attack. Instead, it seemed curious. Professor Kale realized he was witnessing something unprecedented. In all his years of studying dangerous species, he had never seen a Vex Hunter show anything other than aggression toward other life forms. But this human's presence seemed to have a calming effect on the creature. "Class," Professor Kale said, slowly, I think we are about to learn something new today, something that might change how we understand both Vex Hunters and humans. The lesson was just beginning, but already everyone knew this would be unlike any class they had ever attended. Professor Kale cleared his throat and tried to continue with his planned lesson. He activated the holographic display system and began showing detailed images of Vex anatomy. The Vex Hunter's primary weapons are its retractable claws, he explained, pointing to enlarged images of the creature's limbs. These claws can extend up to 15 centimeters and are sharp enough to cut through titanium alloy. The creature can strike with them faster than most species can react. The students took notes while keeping their eyes on both the hologram and the real creature in the container. The Vex Hunter seemed to understand it was being discussed. It extended its claws as if demonstrating the professor's words. Additionally, Professor Kale continued, the Vex produces 3 types of toxic substances. The first is a contact poison that causes immediate burns and tissue damage. The second is a neurotoxin delivered through bite that causes paralysis. The third is a digestive acid that it can spit with remarkable accuracy up to 10 meters. Hyarin raised one of her insect-like arms. Professor, how many people has this species killed? The Vex are responsible for the deaths of over 3,000 sentient beings in the past century. They show no mercy and cannot be reasoned with. They are perfect killing machines. During this explanation, Dohyun remained near the container. He had pulled out a small notebook and was sketching the Vex Hunter from different angles. The creature seemed to enjoy the attention, moving to give him better views of its features. The most dangerous aspect of Vex Hunters, Professor Kale said, is their intelligence. They are capable of complex problem-solving and can adapt their hunting strategies based on their prey. They have been observed using tools and setting traps. That's really smart, Dohyun said admiringly. It's like some of the octopi back home. They can solve puzzles and use tools, too. There's this one species that collects coconut shells to make portable shelters. Professor Kale paused his lecture. Mr. Dohyun, did you just compare a Vex Hunter to a creature from your homeworld? Well, yeah. In terms of intelligence and problem-solving, ability. The octopus is obviously very different physically, but the smart hunting behavior is similar. Yuna's crystal body flickered with confusion. This octopus creature, is it dangerous? Some of them are, Dohyun replied matter-of-factly. The blue-ringed octopus has venom that can kill a human in minutes, but most octopi are harmless to humans. They're just really interesting to watch. The security guards exchanged worried looks. Thorg stepped forward. Human, are you saying your planet has multiple venomous species? Oh, lots of them. Snakes, spiders, jellyfish, fish, frogs, even some mammals. Australia alone has more venomous animals than most entire star systems. Sunwoo's gaseous form turned purple with disbelief. Your species evolved on a world with that many natural predators? It's not just the venomous ones, Dohyun explained, warming to the topic. We also have large predators like bears, big cats, crocodiles, and sharks. Then there are the disease carriers like mosquitoes and ticks. Oh, and the really dangerous herbivores like hippos and Cape buffalo. The classroom fell silent except for the humming sound the Vex Hunter was making. It had stopped trying to look threatening and was now simply watching Dohyun with obvious interest. Professor Kale found himself asking, how does your species survive on such a dangerous world? We're adaptable, Dohyun said with a shrug. We learn to use tools, work together, and understand the behavior of other animals. Most dangerous animals don't actually want to hurt humans. They just want to be left alone or they're protecting their territory or babies. He gestured toward the Vex Hunter. Like this little guy. He's probably confused and scared. He's been taken from his home and put in a strange place with strange creatures. No wonder he's acting aggressive. Little guy, Thorg repeated in amazement. That creature could tear you apart in seconds. So could a grizzly bear, Dohyun replied, calmly. But people study grizzly bears all the time. My brother Jinho is a wildlife photographer. He gets close to dangerous animals every day for his work. You just have to know what you're doing and respect the animal. The Vex Hunter pressed its face against the glass again, all four eyes focused on Dohyun. The human noticed and moved closer to the container. Mr. Dohyun, Professor Kale called out. Please maintain your distance. Professor, I'd like to observe its behavior more closely. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to study a live Vex Hunter. Look how it's responding to my presence. This is completely different from what your textbooks describe. The textbooks describe it correctly, Professor Kale insisted. Vex Hunters are aggressive toward all other life forms. But it's not being aggressive toward me, Dohyun pointed out. It stopped making threatening sounds and gestures as soon as I showed that I wasn't afraid. That suggests it's more intelligent than just a killing machine. Hyerin clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. The human makes a good point. The creature's behavior has changed significantly since he approached. Because it's planning to attack, Thorg growled. It's studying him to find the best way to kill him. Dohyun laughed, which made everyone even more nervous. If it wanted to attack me, it would have tried already. Look at its body language. It's curious, not aggressive. Its claws are retracted. Its mandibles are relaxed, and it's making those humming sounds instead of threatening clicks. You can read its body language? Yuna asked, her crystal structure brightening with fascination. Animals have patterns, Dohyun explained. Aggressive postures, defensive postures, curious postures. It's similar across many species. This Vex Hunter is definitely curious right now, not hostile. As if to prove his point, the Vex Hunter sat down in its container. It continued watching Dohyun, but in a relaxed position. Professor Kale stared at the scene before him. In 30 years of teaching xenobiology, he had never seen anything like this. According to every piece of research on Vex Hunters, they were incapable of peaceful interaction with other species. Mr. Dohyun, he said slowly, would you be willing to participate in an observation exercise? Absolutely, Dohyun replied immediately. I want you to move around the container slowly. We'll observe how the creature responds to your movements. The other students moved their chairs to the back of the room. Thorg and his security team prepared their weapons, just in case. Dohyun began walking slowly around the container. The Vex Hunter stood up and followed his movement, turning its body to keep him in sight. But instead of aggressive tracking, it looked more like a curious pet watching its owner. When Dohyun stopped, the creature stopped. When he moved left, it moved to keep facing him. When he crouched down to observe from a lower angle, the Vex Hunter also lowered itself. Remarkable, Professor Kale whispered. It's mirroring his movements. It's trying to communicate, Dohyun said excitedly. Look, when I tilt my head, it tilts its head. When I raise my hand, it raises one of its front legs. This is impossible, Thorg muttered. Vex Hunters don't communicate, they only kill. Maybe they've never had the chance to communicate before, Dohyun suggested. If everyone who meets them is terrified and trying to run away or fight, how could they learn peaceful interaction? Because they're predators, Hyerin pointed out. Predators don't need to communicate with prey. But I'm not acting like prey, Dohyun explained. I'm not running or showing fear signals. So maybe it doesn't see me as prey. Maybe it sees me as something else, another predator, or just a strange creature it doesn't understand. Sunwoo drifted closer, his gaseous form a cautious yellow color. On your world, do predators ever interact peacefully? Sometimes. Wolves and ravens have a cooperative relationship. Some sharks have cleaner fish that live with them. Even my cat back home gets along with the neighbor's dog and their natural enemies. The Vex Hunter made the humming sound again. Louder this time. Dohyun hummed back, trying to match the tone. The creature's 4 eyes widened with what looked like surprise. Did you just communicate with it? Yuna asked in amazement. Maybe. Or maybe it's just responding to the sound. But it's definitely not acting like the killing machine described in our textbooks. Professor Kale realized that this human student was teaching him more about Vex Hunters in one class period than he had learned in years of studying dead specimens and attack reports. Perhaps the problem wasn't that Vex Hunters were impossible to understand. Perhaps no one had ever tried to understand them from a position of calm confidence rather than terror. Class, he announced, I believe we need to revise our understanding of Vex Hunter behavior. It appears that fear responses from potential prey may actually trigger their aggressive instincts. So the more afraid we are, the more dangerous they become. Hyerin asked. It's possible, Professor Kale replied, watching as Dohyun continued his peaceful interaction with the creature. And if that's true, then humans may be uniquely suited to studying them safely. The rest of the class period continued with careful observation of the unusual interaction between human and Vex Hunter. By the end, even the most skeptical students had to admit that something extraordinary was happening. The killer introduced to class had indeed been laughed at by the human Deathworlder. But more than that, it had been understood. When the class ended, most students hurried out of the room as quickly as possible. But a few stayed behind, drawn by curiosity about the human who had shown no fear of the galaxy's most feared predator. Yuna approached Dohyun first, her crystal body still flickering between colors. I have to ask, are all humans like you? Dohyun packed his notebooks into his bag and laughed. You mean, are we all crazy enough to make friends with dangerous aliens? No, I'm probably more interested in animals than most humans, but we're all used to living with dangerous creatures. You keep mentioning creatures from your world, Sunwoo said, his gaseous form settling into a comfortable blue color. Can you tell us more about them? Sure, Dohyun replied. He pulled out his personal communicator and activated the holographic display. Let me show you some pictures my family sent me. The first image appeared in the air above his device. It showed a young human woman sitting calmly while a large, hairy spider crawled across her hand. The spider was black, with thick legs, and was about the size of a dinner plate. Yuna's crystal body immediately turned deep red, and she stepped back. Sunwoo's form contracted into a tight ball. Even Hyerin, whose own species resembled insects, made a distressed clicking sound. This is my sister Mina with her pet tarantula Fuzzy, Dohyun explained casually. Tarantulas are really gentle creatures. They rarely bite, and even when they do, it's not dangerous to humans. Mina says Fuzzy is very affectionate. That thing is huge, Sunwoo gasped. How big do they get? Oh, this isn't even a big one. Some species can have leg spans of nearly 30 centimeters, and there are other spiders that are more dangerous, like the Sydney funnel web spider. Its bite can kill a human in 15 minutes. And humans live on the same planet as these creatures willingly? Yuna asked in disbelief. We don't really have a choice, Dohyun said with a smile. It's our home planet. But honestly, spiders are useful. They eat lots of insects that would otherwise bother us. Most humans just leave them alone. He switched to the next image. This one showed a muscular human man crouching next to a massive brown animal with long claws and powerful jaws. The man was smiling and seemed completely relaxed. This is my brother Jinho, with a grizzly bear in Alaska. He was doing a photography project on North American predators. He's touching it, Hyerin exclaimed. Well, not exactly touching. He's about 3 meters away. That's close enough to get good photos, but far enough to be safe if the bear decides it doesn't want him there. How big is that creature? Thorg asked. The security chief had stayed to listen to the conversation. Adult male grizzlies can weigh up to 360 kilograms and stand 3 meters tall on their hind legs. They can run 50 kilometers per hour and have claws like knives. One swipe from a grizzly paw can break a human's spine. And your brother photographs them for fun? Sunwoo asked, his form turning yellow with amazement. It's his job, actually. Jinho documents wildlife behavior for research institutions. He's also photographed polar bears, great white sharks, and saltwater crocodiles. Do-Yoon showed them more. Images. His brother standing on a boat while massive sharks swam below. A photo of a snake coiled around a tree branch, and pictures of various other creatures that made the alien students recoil in horror. This is a king cobra, he explained, showing an image of a snake rearing up with its hood spread. They can grow over 5 meters long and their venom can kill an elephant. But they're also beautiful creatures with complex social behaviors. Stop, Yuna pleaded, her crystal form now almost black with fear. How does your species survive on this death world? Death world? Dohyun looked confused. Earth isn't a death world. It's just normal. Every planet has dangerous animals, right? The alien students exchanged glances. Professor Kale, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. Mr. Dohyun, most inhabited worlds in the galaxy have very few large predators. The Thek homeworld has no venomous species at all. The Nabari evolved in gas giant atmospheres where there are no land predators. Even my homeworld has only 3 species that could be considered dangerous to sentient life. Really? Do-Hyun sat down, suddenly interested. But how did you evolve intelligence without predator pressure? Competition with other species is one of the main drivers of brain development. We had competition, Professor Kale explained, but it was mostly over resources like food and territory, not life and death survival against creatures actively trying to eat us. Hyerin clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. Your world has shaped your entire species differently than ours. You see dangerous creatures as normal parts of life, not as existential threats. Exactly, Do-Yoon agreed. And because we're used to them, we've learned to study them and understand them instead of just running away. My friend Wu Jin back home studies animal behavior. He's learned to communicate with dozens of different species using body language, sounds, and scent signals. Could these communication techniques work on other alien species? Sunwoo asked excitedly. Maybe. Animals have a lot of universal behaviors. Aggression, submission, curiosity, playfulness. These show up in similar ways across many species. The Vex Hunter in there showed classic curiosity behaviors once it realized I wasn't a threat. Thorg shook his massive head. Human that Vex. Hunter is still one of the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. Don't let one peaceful interaction make you careless. I'm not being careless, Do-Yoon assured him. I respect what it can do, But I also recognize that it's an intelligent creature, not just a mindless killer. Back home, we have animals just as dangerous that we've learned to coexist with. Such as? Professor Kale asked. Dohyun thought for a moment. Well, there are saltwater crocodiles in Australia. They can grow 7 meters long and have the strongest bite force of any animal on Earth. They're ambush predators that can remain motionless for hours waiting for prey. But people still study them, and some researchers have been working with the same individual crocodiles for years. How is that possible? Yuna asked. Understanding and respect. The researchers know crocodile behavior patterns. They know when a crocodile is likely to be aggressive and when it's calm. They know how to move around them safely. They never turn their backs or get careless, but they're not paralyzed by fear either. Hyarin moved closer, her own insectoid, features making her naturally more comfortable with the concept of predators. You're saying that fear actually makes encounters more dangerous? Often, yes. When animals sense fear, they know they have power over you. That can trigger aggressive behavior in some species. But if you approach with calm confidence and respect, many animals will respond differently. Is that what happened with the Vex Hunter today? Professor Kale asked. I think so. It was displaying aggressive behaviors because everyone was showing fear signals. When I approached calmly and showed interest instead of fear, it didn't know how to respond. So it got curious instead of aggressive. Sunwoo drifted closer to the container where the Vex Hunter was still sitting quietly. It does look much calmer now than when it first arrived. Because it's not being treated like a monster, Dohyun explained. It's being treated like an intelligent creature deserving of study and respect. Professor Kale realized that this human student was challenging everything he thought he knew about dangerous xenobiology. If fear responses from observers could trigger aggressive behavior in predator species, then the entire field might need to be reconsidered. Mr. Dohyun, he said slowly, would you be interested in helping with an extended study of this specimen? Your unique perspective could be invaluable for our research. Absolutely, Dohyun replied immediately. But I'd want to involve my friend Wu Jin, too. He has more experience with animal communication than I do. And maybe my sister Mina. She's studying xenobiology, too, specializing in arthropod species. More. Humans? Thorg asked nervously. Don't worry, Dohyun said with a grin. We're all pretty sensible about dangerous animals. We know how to be safe while still being curious. As they continued talking, none of them noticed that the Vex Hunter had moved to the front of its container and was listening intently to their conversation. Its 4 eyes focused on each speaker in turn, and its mandibles moved slightly as if it was trying to understand their words. For the first time in its life, the Vex Hunter was surrounded by creatures who weren't afraid of it, and for the first time, it was beginning to wonder if there might be more to life than hunting and killing. The humans were about to teach the entire galaxy something new about the nature of intelligence, fear, and understanding. And it all started with one human who laughed when others ran in terror. 3 days later, Professor Kale had made arrangements for a controlled experiment. The classroom had been cleared of regular students, leaving only volunteers who wanted to observe. Do-hyun stood in the center of the room, while several recording devices captured every angle of what was about to happen. Mr. Do-hyun, Professor Kale said nervously, are you absolutely certain about this? I'm sure, Professor. If my theory is correct, the Vex Hunter will respond positively to calm, confident interaction. If I'm wrong, Dohyun shrugged. Well, that's why we have safety protocols. Thorg and 5 other security guards stood ready with containment weapons. The barriers around the Vex Hunter's container had been modified to allow for a small opening, just large enough for Dohyun to reach through, but small enough to be sealed instantly if needed. Yuna, Sunwoo, and Hyerin watched from behind, reinforced. Barriers. They had volunteered to witness the experiment despite their fear. The moment anything goes wrong, we're sealing that opening and ending this test, Thorg warned. Understood, Dohyun replied. He approached the container slowly, his movements calm and deliberate. The Vex Hunter had been watching him since he entered the room. As he got closer, the creature moved to the front of its container and sat down in what had become its usual position when Dohyun was near. "Hello again," Dohyun said softly. "Remember me?" The Vex Hunter made the humming sound it had started producing during their first meeting. All four of its eyes focused on Dohyun's face. "It recognizes you," Professor Kale observed, making notes on his tablet. "Vex Hunters are not supposed to form memories of individual creatures unless they're prey items. Maybe it's never had the chance to form positive associations before," Dohyun suggested. He knelt down so he was at the same eye level as the creature. All its interactions with other species have probably been violent. The small opening in the container activated with a soft hiss. Dohyun slowly moved his hand toward the gap. "Careful," Thorg muttered, his finger hovering over the emergency seal control. Dohyun's hand entered the container. The Vex Hunter immediately focused all its attention on his fingers. Its mandibles clicked softly, not the aggressive clicking they had heard before, but a gentler sound. "It's curious," Dohyun reported quietly. "Look at its body language. Relaxed posture, head tilted, no aggressive displays." The creature moved closer to his hand. For a moment, everyone held their breath. This was the critical test. Would the Vex Hunter attack when given the opportunity? Instead of striking with its claws, the Vex Hunter gently touched Dohyun's finger with one of its front legs. The touch was careful, exploratory, like a cat investigating something new. "Remarkable," Professor Kale whispered. "It's making peaceful contact." "I can feel how careful it's being," Dohyun said with wonder in his voice. "It knows I'm fragile compared to it, so it's being gentle." The Vex Hunter examined Dohyun's hand for several minutes, touching different parts with its legs and even its mandibles. At no point did it extend its claws or show any aggressive behavior. "This is impossible," one of the security guards muttered. "Vex Hunters don't do gentle." "Maybe they do," Hyerin said from behind her barrier. "Maybe no one has ever given them the chance." Dohyun began making soft clicking sounds, similar to the ones he had heard the creature make. The Vex Hunter's head perked up with obvious interest. It made clicking sounds back, creating a simple call and response pattern. "Are you communicating with it?" Yuna asked in amazement. "I think so. Basic stuff. I click, it clicks back, but it's definitely responding intentionally." Just then, the classroom door opened and another human walked in. Tae-hyun, Do-hyun's friend from Earth, had arrived for his scheduled visit. "Sorry I'm late," Tae-hyun said, looking around the room. Traffic was terrible in the orbital stations. He noticed the setup and grinned. "Oh, cool. Is this the dangerous alien Do-hyun told me about?" The alien students stared in shock as Tae-hyun casually approached, the container showing no fear whatsoever. "Yeah, this is the Vex Hunter," Do-hyun replied, not removing his hand from the container. "Isn't it amazing? Look how intelligent it is." Tae-hyun peered through the glass at the creature. "Wow, it's like a cross between a mantis and a tarantula. The leg structure is really interesting. Does it web build like Earth spiders?" We haven't observed web-building behavior, Professor Kale answered weakly. He was still trying to process the fact that another human had just walked up to the galaxy's most feared predator and started discussing its anatomy like it was a fascinating museum exhibit. Too bad, Taehyun said. That would have been really cool to see. Can I try interacting with it too? Before anyone could stop him, Taehyun had moved to the opening and placed his hand inside the container next to Dohyun's. The security team raised their weapons, but the Vex Hunter's reaction was not what they expected. Instead of becoming aggressive, at the presence of a second potential threat, the creature became even more interested. It examined Taehyun's hand with the same gentle curiosity it had shown Do-hyun. "Hi there," Taehyun said softly. "You're a beautiful creature, aren't you?" The Vex Hunter made a pleased humming sound and actually moved closer to both humans. "Two humans," Sunwoo observed, his gaseous form bright with excitement, "and it's completely calm with both of them. This changes everything we know about Vex. Hunter behavior?" Professor Kale said, his hands shaking as he tried to keep up with his notes. "They're capable of peaceful interaction, recognition of individuals, and even what appears to be enjoyment of social contact. Maybe, Do-hyun suggested, the reason they're so aggressive in the wild is because they're lonely. If they're intelligent, enough for social interaction, but every other species runs from them in terror that could make them frustrated and violent." "You think it's been acting out because it's isolated?" Hyerin asked. "It's possible. Many Earth animals become aggressive when they're stressed or lonely. Wolves, for example, can become dangerous when separated from their pack." Taehyun nodded in agreement. "And some of our most dangerous animals become much calmer when they're in environments where they feel safe and understood. There are wildlife sanctuaries on Earth where people work directly with tigers, bears, and other predators." The Vex Hunter had now positioned itself so that it could touch both humans simultaneously. It seemed to be enjoying the contact, making soft humming sounds continuously. "I want to try something," Do-hyun said. He began humming a simple melody, a lullaby his mother used to sing to him. The Vex Hunter listened intently, then began to hum along. Its humming wasn't exactly the same melody, but it was clearly trying to match the rhythm and tone. "It's singing," Yuna said in wonder, her crystal body now glowing bright white with amazement. "Not singing exactly," Taehyun corrected, "but definitely trying to participate in the music. This is incredibly sophisticated behavior." Professor Kale realized he was witnessing history being made. Everything the galactic scientific community believed about Vex Hunters was being overturned by two young humans who approached the creature with curiosity instead of fear. "Gentlemen," he said to Do-hyun and Taehyun, "I believe you've just proven that Vex Hunters are not the mindless killers we thought they were. They're intelligent, social creatures who have been misunderstood for centuries. All because no one ever tried to be their friend," Do-hyun said simply. The test continued for another hour. The Vex Hunter demonstrated its ability to learn simple games, respond to its name, Taehyun had started calling it Spike, and even follow basic commands. By the end of the session, it was clear that the creature was not just intelligent, but eager to interact peacefully with beings who treated it with respect. As they prepared to end the session, the Vex Hunter made a new sound, a low, mournful noise that clearly expressed sadness at their departure. "It doesn't want us to leave," Taehyun observed. "We'll be back tomorrow," Do-hyun promised the creature. "This is just the beginning." As the humans carefully withdrew their hands and the container sealed, the Vex Hunter pressed against the glass, watching them go. For the first time in its life, it had experienced friendship instead of fear, curiosity instead of hatred. The killer introduced to the class had become something no one expected: a friend. And in doing so, it had taught the galaxy that sometimes the most dangerous creatures are only dangerous because they've never been given a chance to be anything else. The humans had laughed at fear itself, and in doing so, had opened a door to understanding that could change the relationship between species across the entire galaxy. 2 months had passed since the first encounter between Dohy and the Vex Hunter. What had started as a single-class demonstration had become the most important xenobiology research project in galactic history. The classroom had been converted into a permanent research lab. The original container had been replaced with a larger, more comfortable habitat that allowed for greater interaction while maintaining safety protocols. The Vex Hunter, now officially named Spike at Taehyun's suggestion, had become the most studied creature in the academy. Dohyun sat cross-legged on the floor next to Spike's habitat, working on his daily behavioral observations. The creature had learned to recognize not just him, but all the regular research team members. It showed different responses to each person based on their comfort level around it. "Good morning, Spike," Dohyun said softly. The Vex Hunter immediately moved to the front of its habitat and made its greeting hum, a specific sound it only used when welcoming familiar friends. Taehyun entered the lab carrying a tray of food samples. "How's our favorite predator today?" "Excellent. He learned a new trick yesterday. Watch this." Dohyun held up his hand with fingers spread. Spike responded by raising one of its front legs and spreading its smaller appendages in a clear imitation of the gesture. "Incredible," said Minhee, another human student who had joined the research team. "He's not just mimicking, he's actively trying to communicate in our body language." Professor Kale looked up from his data analysis station. "The progress reports I'm sending to the Galactic Science Council are being met with disbelief. 3 different xenobiology committees have requested to send observers." "Good," Dohyun replied. "The more people who see this, the better. Spike isn't unique. He's just the first Vex Hunter anyone has tried to understand instead of kill." Over the past weeks, other students had gradually overcome their fear and begun participating in the research. Yuna now regularly helped with data collection, her crystal body no longer turning red when she approached Spike's habitat. Sunwoo had become fascinated with studying the communication patterns between humans and the Vex Hunter. "I've been analyzing the sound recordings," Sunwoo announced, his gaseous form a bright yellow with excitement. "Spike has developed over 30 distinct vocalizations that he uses specifically when interacting with humans. That's more complex than the communication systems of most supposedly intelligent species." Hyerin clicked her mandibles in what had become her expression of amazement. "In my species' history, we have legends of the bridgebuilders, creatures who could communicate with any other species. We always thought they were myths." "Maybe they weren't myths," Taehyun suggested. "Maybe they were just individuals who approached other species with curiosity instead of fear." As if responding to the conversation, Spike moved to his communication station, a series of colored buttons he had learned to press to indicate different wants or needs. He pressed the blue button, which meant he wanted to play, followed by the green button, which indicated he wanted multiple people to participate. "He wants group interaction time," Minhee translated. "He's become quite social, hasn't he?" "Vex hunters in the wild live in small groups," Professor Kale noted. "We always assumed the groups were just hunting packs, but perhaps they have genuine social bonds." Dohyun opened the interaction chamber, a carefully designed space where humans could safely enter Spike's habitat. The Vex Hunter immediately moved toward him, but in a relaxed, friendly manner rather than the aggressive approach that had been documented in previous encounters with his species. "The transformation is remarkable," Professor Kale continued. "When he first arrived, every movement was a threat display. Now watch, he's actually playing." Spike had learned several games from the humans. His favorite was a modified version of peekaboo, where he would hide behind the large rock formation in his habitat and then surprise the humans by appearing suddenly. Instead of being a predatory ambush, it had become a form of entertainment for all involved. Taehyun joined Dohyun in the habitat, and Spike immediately initiated the game. He crouched behind his rock and made a soft clicking sound, his version of, "Ready or not, here I come." When he jumped out, instead of attacking, he made his pleased humming sound and did what they had learned was his version of laughter, a rapid series of soft clicks. "He's telling jokes now," Yuna observed, her crystal body glowing with delight. "A Vex Hunter is telling jokes." "The implications are staggering," Professor Kale said. "If Vex Hunters are capable of humor, social bonding, and complex communication, then we need to completely reconsider their classification. They're not just predators. They're a sentient species." "Which means," Hyeron added soberly, "that every time we've killed one in self-defense, we may have been committing what amounts to murder of an intelligent being." The lab fell quiet as the weight of that realization settled over everyone. Thousands of Vex Hunters had been killed over the centuries, all because first contact had gone wrong and no one had ever tried to establish peaceful communication. "That's exactly why this research is so important," Dohyun said finally. "We can't change the past, but we can change the future. Spike is proof that peaceful coexistence is possible." "More than possible," Taehyun added. "He's actually teaching us things about his species that we never could have learned from studying dead specimens or attack reports." Over the following weeks, Spike's progress continued to amaze everyone. He learned to use simple tools, showed artistic preferences when offered different colors and textures, and even demonstrated what appeared to be empathy when he sensed that someone was upset or stressed. The breakthrough came when Woojin arrived from Earth. Dohyun's friend brought with him years of experience in animal communication and a collection of specialized equipment designed for interspecies interaction studies. "The key," Woojin explained to the assembled research team, "is understanding that communication isn't just about language. It's about building trust, showing respect, and finding common ground." Within days of Woojin's arrival, he had established a more sophisticated communication system with Spike. Using a combination of sounds, gestures, and symbolic representations, they achieved what many had thought impossible: actual conversation with a Vex Hunter. Spike understands concepts like friend, safe, play, and learn, Woojin reported. He's also expressed curiosity about our homeworld and other humans. He particularly wants to know about the creatures we've described: spiders, bears, sharks. I think he's fascinated by the idea of a world where many predator species coexist. He wants to visit Earth? Minnie asked in surprise. Not exactly, but he's interested in meeting other creatures that humans have befriended despite their dangerous nature. I think he's beginning to understand that he's not alone in being a predator who can also be a friend. The final milestone came when representatives from the Galactic Council arrived for an official observation session. 3 council members from different species came prepared to witness what they expected to be an elaborate hoax or massive misunderstanding of Vex Hunter behavior. Instead, They watched as Spike greeted each human team member individually, played games, solved puzzles, created simple art using colored materials, and engaged in complex communication with Wu Jin. The moment that convinced them came when one of the council members, a Goliathan military officer similar to Thorg, accidentally dropped his datapad near Spike's habitat. Instead of ignoring it or treating it as potential prey, Spike carefully picked up the device with his mandibles and gently handed it back through the interaction port. "Impossible," the officer whispered. "Vex hunters are killers. They don't help people." "This one does," Dohyun said simply, "because he's been given the chance to be something other than a killer." The council members spent 3 days observing Spike's interactions with the research team. By the end of their visit, they were forced to acknowledge what the humans had proven. Vex hunters were not monsters, but intelligent beings who had been trapped in a cycle of violence through misunderstanding and fear. "This changes everything," the council leader announced. "We must immediately halt all extermination protocols for Vex hunters and begin developing new first contact procedures based on your research." "The humans have given us a gift," another council member added. "They've shown us that even our greatest fears can become our greatest teachers if we approach them with wisdom instead of weapons." As the council members prepared to leave, Spike approached the viewing area where they stood. Instead of the aggressive display they expected, he made his greeting hum and performed the gesture-copying behavior he had learned from Dohyun. "He's saying goodbye," Wu Jin translated. "And thank you for listening." The council member, who had dropped his datapad, stared at Spike for a long moment, then slowly raised his hand in a farewell gesture. Spike immediately copied the movement. "Goodbye, friend," the officer said quietly. "I'm sorry it took us so long to understand." That night, as Dohyun sat with Spike during evening interaction time, he reflected on how much had changed since that first day when everyone had run in fear from the killer in their class. "You know what the best part is, Spike?" he said softly. The Vex Hunter hummed questioningly, tilting his head in the gesture that meant, "Tell me more."